Here at the Still 80 Mania podcast, we are passionate about drifting history. Here's a little history lesson. Back in 2003, Falcon Tires did what no other tire company in the US did. They promoted drifting by sponsoring Falcon Drift Show-Off, and they brought legendary Japanese drifters Koguchi and Seigo Yamamoto to judge and do demos. They sponsored grassroots drivers, and when FD was established, they supported the series and drivers for 19 years. When we approached Falcon about partnering with us, they were happy to come on board because they care about drifting culture, and they support our mission to document drifting both past and present. Thank you, Falcon Tires, for playing an important role in drifting around the world and for making Season 2 our best season yet. For more information, please visit Falcon Tire's website at falcontire.com and check out their IG at Falcon Tire. You're listening to the Still 80 Mania podcast Season 2, brought to you by Falcon Tires. Here we document the history of drifting by interviewing the OGs and trendsetters of drifting culture. I'm your host, Benson Su, and I'm joined by my co-host, Nadine.
Hey, honey buns.
Hey, Mama. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. And we've got our audio, video wizard over there in the booth. Mark, what's up, Mark?
What's up?
How you guys doing?
Well, I'm happy. We're together, and I had some pretzel buns this morning, so I'm good.
Buns. So,
stop.
I have a game for you guys for this interview, and it's related to our guest.
Oh, okay.
So the game is fill in the blank.
Oh, I can do this.
I'm going to go through and I'm going to ask each of you the same thing. And the prompt is, I am thankful for the UK because of blank.
Oh, okay. Can I go first?
Yeah, you can go first.
Okay. I am thankful to the UK for my family because I am 20% Scottish.
Are you exactly 20%?
I am.
Okay.
I am. My mom tells me we're half, but we're not because I saw the genealogy thing and it's 20.
20%.
20%. Okay. So I'm thankful for my
Okay.
family.
You're UK-ish.
Yeah. I'm not going to do a fake accent because I don't really know what.
No, we don't want to get in trouble. All right. What about you, Mark?
I am thankful for the Aston Martin DB9.
That's interesting. Like the current one?
No, the one that was like the DB9.
Oh, which one? Oh.
So the original DB9 after the DB7.
Okay.
That's just one of my favorite cars.
Yeah, I know we got some of those here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was really cool to see those on the street because we never got any Aston Martins here. So to see one like a modern one, and they sound good too.
Yeah, I mean the DB9 was like right after the DB7, which is kind of old. If you look at the interior, it's kind of
Yeah.
It was the last. To me, it was like the last cool one.
That's good.
How you like that?
That's
okay,
good.
We're gonna.
Well, I gotta
play the game.
I'm gonna play the game.
All right.
So my answer is I'm thankful for LMA because the singer LMA.
Yes.
I think she's amazing.
Yeah,
and
we love her.
For a singer, I'm like when I found out she's British, I was like, she's not British. And then I researched, and then I could hear her accent. And I was just like, because she has so much soul. It sound like as a R&B singer sounds very American to me.
But she's
and
kind of
the
from
things
Brooklyn.
that she sings about. Yeah, she lived in Brooklyn for a little bit, but as an adult and not that long. So anyway, mind blown when I found out she was British. So
nice. All right. Thank you, UK. Hey, that's cute. That's a cute game.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the reason why I brought that up, and that's a part of this episode, is because our guest is from the UK.
Oh.
So this guest has been a really long friend of mine, and we met on the internet.
That sounds really sketchy.
He was kind of like, my pen pal.
Bringing your internet friends onto the show.
Yeah, bringing my internet friends on. But it's because of the internet that drifting has spread so fast. And so this guy, he is an OG of drifting and AE86s in the UK. And I'm gonna read some of his accomplishments here because he's a humble person and he will probably not bring it up on his own. So let me read some accomplishments for you guys. He placed 5th in the Option Drift Club D1 final of 2003. In the Eurodrift 2005 round 2, he got third and was voted the best entertainer.
What?
I'm not sure. Is that like Nomuken or is it like entertaining driving? I'm not sure. In 2005, the Eurodrift round 3, he got second. Round 4, he got second. In 2006 round 2, he got second. 2006 round 3, he got second. 2006 round 4, he got second. And in Eurodrift 2006 round 6, he got first.
Oh, finally.
SVA Imports Drift Challenge, he got first. Drift All Stars 2007, he got first.
Wow.
In EDC 2007, new license holder, he got first place. He got awarded the Hard Charger Award. And in Drift Cup 2015 round 2, he got the Hard Charger Award. So he's kind of
a badass.
He's a badass. He's been on the podium a lot. And I would also say that in the UK, it's not big on low power drift car culture.
Mm-hmm.
So he was always one of the few with the low horsepower, hachirokus, and he can drive the hell out of a hachiroku. So without further ado, Chris Parry, aka Paz, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Welcome, Chris. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's an honor.
Welcome, Paz.
It's well overdue. I'm so glad you can make time to get on the podcast with us. And you've got a drawing behind you.
Can you even tell what they're supposed to be? That's the first question.
Yeah, I see.
My best.
I see an S13 with a Sylvia face with Oni camber. I see a Levin, an AE86 Levin with I don't know, is that a good line bumper?
It was supposed to be
a good line bumper and a drop vent hood. I like it. It says Still 80 Mania. That brings me back to some of the art that we used to share with each other.
Yeah, I was gonna write like oatcakes.
Oatcakes, yeah, I was gonna say, where's oatcakes?
No one else would know what the hell was going on, so I gave that one a miss.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump right into it. I wanted to ask you to kind of introduce us to UK culture because I think, I know that a lot of my listeners and viewers, they're from the US. We have some scattered around the world, but mostly in the US. So I wanted to ask, can you introduce us to some UK slang?
Oh,
well, the ones that we've discussed stuff in the past that we're probably not going to be saying on the podcast before because it's very rude.
Yes, rude is okay, but how about
vulgar is another story.
Yeah, vulgar is different. Yeah,
yeah. Basic stuff, isn't it? You guys always calling things hoods and trunks, and that's not right.
It's not
boots
right.
And bonnets, guys.
Oh my god, boots and bonnets.
Boots and bonnets.
But we're so silly here that we call fenders wings. But if I buy an Origin Aero kit, it's over fenders. So I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
So I didn't know that.
Even an over fender kit, a 50mm over fender kit.
So you guys know what a fender is, even though you don't call them fenders.
Stubborn. Yeah, we call them wings, which doesn't make much sense, really, does it? Because
then what do you call a spoiler? Is it a spoiler? Do you call it spoiler on the rear? Yeah. Okay. Sounds pretty backwards.
Front lips. We call front lips splitters.
Yeah, I get that.
We get that.
So what do you call? I mean, we have splitters, and splitters are kind of like an aerodynamic thing that you put underneath a front bumper to.
Yeah. Okay.
What are those?
That slang. Same thing, but like it's any old rubbish that can be stuck on the front of a car gets called a splitter. So like, if it was early US style AE86 Home Depot garden or pool
that's a splitter.
That's a splitter. Yeah, it's a splitter.
Anything? Okay, got it.
Yeah, except we didn't have any Home Depot lining over here.
Do you have Home Depot there?
No.
Okay.
Hence no lining.
So that's kind of cool that you remembered Home Depot.
I remember Andy Yen's brown Corolla with it on.
That's right.
Yeah, all of them had it on. It was cool, man.
That's right. What about spotted dick?
Oh.
It's a thing.
That's private.
I've never eaten it. I don't want to eat it.
You didn't eat. You've never eaten spot and dick.
No, it doesn't sound appealing in the slightest.
You gave me. You gave me spotted dick.
Oh my god, this sounds really bad.
You gave me spotted dick for Christmas.
Can you guys like put this into context?
How
though?
can
Because
you?
it sounds really bad what you guys are saying right now. Like, can you explain?
I mean, cakes. I don't like cakes that are like brown.
Oh my god.
And spotted dick is brown, as far as I'm aware. Like all like raisins and stuff. I don't like it.
Go back to the basics. What is spotted dick? Because we in America know what spotted dick is, but it's different.
That's something you go to the doctor for.
Yeah, you get.
Yeah. I don't know what the actual ingredients are. I could find out, but it's just a cake or a pudding.
So it's a dessert. It's a
dessert.
Is it usually canned?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a canned dessert because I seen it at our store one time.
Yeah, you did.
And I go, what?
What is
in
this?
the world? Yeah. So
how is this even allowed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you eat that cake? Or
I did eat it. I did eat it, but now I'm mad at you because you gave it to me and you've never had it yourself.
No, but I think I only really sent it for the comedy value.
Oh, okay. It wasn't meant to be eaten.
Might be okay. I'm just not brave enough.
It wasn't bad.
Brave enough.
I was giggling the whole time, but it wasn't bad.
Every mouthful is just laughing to yourself. The best cake ever.
Every mouthful of spotted dick. That's great, guys. Well, I have another one. So I was stalking you on the Driftworks blog page. And there's this like little intro page in it, and it's like you wrote it. And then there's this sentence that really like threw me off, and I had to read it like 3 times. I'm going to quote you. You said, "I saw my first drifting clip on the internet sometime in 99, about the same time as a few other certain nutters." What is nutters? Like a few other certain nutters. Can you explain?
Yeah, like nutters are just, it's slang, and it's, I suppose, a little derogatory, really. But I was younger then, so maybe I didn't realize. But it's just for people who are crazy, like
crazy,
actually
nutty,
insane.
like someone's nutty,
like nutty or the nutty professor. Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it.
It's nothing rude, if that's where you were going with that.
No, I didn't know, but yeah, okay, cool. All right.
Are there any expletives that you use on a daily basis that is very British, like Great Scott or?
Yeah, when I'm riding around on my penny farthing, going Great Scott at people. I don't know. Like the best ones are the really bad ones that you don't want to say. It begins with the C, and it's very rude. But I have noticed that in American TV series the last few years, the word has started to get into you guys' like series and programs and things like that. It's the worst swear word, I think.
Spell it.
I'm not going to say it.
Spell it.
See you next Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you guys use that daily?
Daily.
Wow.
Daily.
That is not used daily here.
I mean, if you're mad all the time,
yeah,
you can call people that all day.
Yeah, it's just like a comma over here or a punctuation.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
You guys are a bunch of dirty sailors.
Jeez.
Bunch of dirty geezers.
Americans come visit. Well, do you use that? Like, okay, just call it C. So use it in a sentence. Like, tell me, how would you use it?
It's used the same way, right? Or is it used like dude?
Yeah, it's used like the word, a descriptive for a person, like dude or guy or whatever. It's prolific. We love it.
I don't get it.
Wow.
Okay.
Let's move on.
Yes.
From the creators of the English language.
Yeah, we've ruined it.
Okay, let's move on. Chris, I call you Chris because we're interviewing Chris Parry, but I call you Pause.
Yeah, no one
calls you Chris.
Yeah, no one calls me
Pause. Chris. You have a lot of nicknames. Pause, Parry. I can't keep track of them all.
Yeah, too many. Every week there'll be some other slightly dubious name that gets applied because of something I've done or said, you know?
So I want to know, this is something I ask all of my guests. When did you fall in love with drifting?
It's the best question. Mine is similar to all the people of our era, essentially, but there's a lot of small things that occurred and came together all at a similar sort of time. But yeah, it's 1999, first car, passed my test, had a Japanese car, and we had just got the internet, like dial-up style, and it took forever to load a picture.
Yeah.
And videos, you would have to walk away and come back the next day to download a 4 meg clip. You know the kind.
This was like dial-up internet?
Dial-up style,
okay.
yeah. So obviously I was looking, because I didn't know any better. I wanted a really bad body kit for my car, like you saw in the
this car
Honda
was
scene
it?
in
Was
the
this
States.
the Starlet?
No, I had a Suzuki Swift GTI first, which was
okay.
I'd love one now if I could find one, but anyway, that's another story. So I wanted a body kit. I wanted it to look like the Hondas that you guys had, because that's all we knew that's what you did with the Japanese car.
Mm-hmm.
So in looking for that sort of thing, I stumbled on a few pages here and there.
Can you give us a date, like a year?
This is still 99, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe just rolling over to 2000 when I started looking, and I can't remember where it was, but there's a random. It's like burned into my psyche. This random clip. It was a pixelated pink 180SX doing a drift, and I was like, well, that's cool, but I didn't really pay much attention to following it up. But as more things just came to me, more websites that I found, like the obvious one with time was Velocity Racing. There was a lot of guys on there.
Yeah.
Yourself included.
Yeah.
And then there was more pictures from Mike Craig. I went to
DJ Electric.
DJ Electric, yeah. It took me a while. I remembered his first name as DJ Mike, but I couldn't remember his second name for ages. Like DJ Electric was what he was called.
Yeah.
Strange name. But yeah, we went to like a car show, and there was AE86s, but I didn't know they were AE86s. They were just gold and burgundy and black, like the worst colours, but the best colours now, doing donuts. And I thought, well, that looks fun.
Oh, really?
They were the Irish guys. You know, the Irish scene for AE86s is huge. And
so they were early.
They just did donuts, like a million donuts.
Okay.
Forever and
donuts,
ever.
So, like, what were they, donuts, or were they like, rap video burnouts?
All of them. They would just hammer the cars, like limiter for 10 minutes at a time.
It was just like hooning.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the car looked cool, and I didn't know what it was, and it was compelling.
Okay.
And it led me to start searching, and then you hit the jackpot when you find Slide Squad.
Yeah.
Early days Slide Squad. And this was probably months and months of me looking and searching and so on. Then you found his video page, and the video of Asamoto coming over the hill at Nishilong, I think. And then the Toge course was opening, and Dave was there.
Yeah.
And I saw those videos, and I was like, I have to have a go of this.
Yeah.
Like this is something that, we've all watched like WRC and touring cars and stuff in the 90s, but we couldn't do that. But drifting was something that a normal person could do. And I just saw it, those videos, and just eyes open, had to have a go. And it sort of stemmed from there. It's all the internet's fault, and then your fault as well. So thanks.
I'm being blamed. So it was kind of a gradual falling in love with it. There wasn't like an aha moment for you.
It was. I from immediately I wanted to do it, but financially, not really that possible. And also the stigma of what we now know as AE86s and 200SX and stuff. As a young guy, where I lived, you didn't have that kind of car. You had a GTI, or you had an RS Turbo Escort, or you had. Yeah. So every time I would, and then that's not, because you're young and you kind of want to have approval, I suppose, in your circle of friends or whatever, however it is. If you just didn't go out and buy those cars, you stuck with what you knew.
Right.
But it took a while of this itching away at me before I thought, well, I'm just going to have a go anyway, even if this car isn't cool.
Yeah.
Or the guys who we go out and do silly things in cars with don't know what this is and aren't going to approve. You get over it and think, no, I'm just going to do this.
Yeah.
This has to happen. And that's probably why it took me a little while to finally commit.
Right. You had to gather the courage and just...
just to throw away what the normal thing was and go for it, really.
Right. Because also AE86s weren't readily available in the UK, right? You couldn't...
Oh, yeah. Even then, when they were... How old would they be? They wouldn't be that old. They'd be like 14 years old.
Yeah. And
you didn't see them.
You'd have to import them.
No, we had UK versions.
Oh, you did?
They were called the GT Coupe. Is what it was. It was another version of their range. They had the front wheel drive version and that. But you didn't see them on the road. You didn't see people driving them. You didn't see, when you went out to like the boy racer meets and stuff.
Yeah.
There just wasn't any on the roads even then. So yeah, you just didn't come across them. They were never in magazines. They were never in the popular sort of culture, so to speak.
And I don't remember how we met. Pause. Do you?
Not exactly. I think it would just be probably from Velocity, the BBS.
Okay.
Just chatting and whatever. Then your BBS probably migrated to there a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Do you think that
that would be the beginning?
Do you think people listening know what a BBS is?
No.
Fair point,
They're like,
actually.
I know BBC.
Even if you say forum, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like Reddit, but everyone had a little Reddit on their websites, and that was called a forum or a BBS, right?
Yeah. Something bulletin system. I can't remember the first word.
But I remember when we first started talking, you had a website.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell us about your website.
I thought it was. I mean, looking back, it was pretty cool. I think, but at the time, it was just you were bored. I had MS Paint on this PC, so I could make really bad artwork and stuff and modify images a little bit. And it was hashiria.net because I was like, you saw my email the other day and laughed about it because it's the same email from like 23 years ago.
For so long, yeah.
Yeah, Wangan Racer.
Yeah.
So that was before drifting, I suppose.
Yeah.
And
and I remember on the front page you had your starlet on the cover, and it was on a like kind of a very subtly sloped road, and that was your toge, right? That's what I remember.
That was the local, the local popular spot where all the motorbikers would go to crash into walls and things.
Yeah,
and we would go in our cars, and no speed cameras back then.
Yeah,
and that was it. Yeah, it was that. It was a look into what I thought Japanese car culture was, and trying to spread that to England on a little GeoCities platform.
Yeah,
and it was talked about drifting and toge and highway racing, the cars that people use, and it was just kind of just inspired by the Velocity page. Realistically, when I look back, it was kind of a little extension of that, I suppose. And, but yeah, like I thought it was quite cool at the time. Yeah,
it was cool. I still see it in my head. So let's jump ahead. I remember you imported a car, right? Was that your black AE86, your first AE86?
My first AE86 was a UK car.
A UK car, okay.
A UK GT Coupe.
Yeah.
I swapped that for my Starlet Turbo. The Starlet Turbo cost me a lot of money because you didn't have things like that in England.
Yeah.
Some guy crashed in the back of it, wrote it off pretty much. So I paid like £6,000 for it back then, and it was worth about £2,000, which happened to be the value of an A86.
Oh.
And the guy wanted my car. He was willing to fix it and didn't want the A86 anymore. So we just did a swap.
Nice.
So I lost a bunch of money, but I got an easy A86 that already had coilovers and things like that because the guy used to race circuit days in it and things like that. And that was the first one, the black one. Wow. And that took me on like the first journey, basically.
Nice. What part of the UK are you in?
It's a lovely town called Stoke-on-Trent. It's like the Midlands, technically. About an hour from Birmingham.
Oh, okay. An hour from Birmingham. Okay. Yeah. I get it.
So let's talk about those early days. You got your hachiroku.
Yeah.
Did you start drifting right away? How did all of that, like, did you meet other people that were interested in the same thing you were interested? How did all that go down?
Yeah. Quite lucky with that. I bought the car just to do drifting. That was like, I'm going to get this car. I'm going to learn how to drift. That's all I wanted to do. And of course, I'd been making this web page and going on about it so much that like the guys who I used to hang around with, drive cars with and stuff, they were already interested because I just wasn't stopping talking about it. And at this point, there's a guy in States who I made like email friends with called Brian Fishback. I don't know if you remember him. And he used to send me ripped VHSs of option videos and things like that.
Uh-huh.
And I would just put them on repeat basically. And all the guys were like just fed up with it. I got my A86. My friend Adrian got a 200SX, which is 180SX essentially, but with he renamed it a 200SX for reasons. Even though it had a 1.8 engine, which makes sense.
And just to give some context, there was no drifting then in the UK.
Not that I knew of. Like, there was a couple of guys who I'd spoke to on email just because I'd seen they had an interest in it. And there was one person that I saw doing actual drifting in real life at a car show at Silverstone Race Circuit. And he had an R32 Skyline at the time. That's the first person I saw, and it was like, whoa, there's actually someone else who's gone out and is learning to do this sort of thing.
So you saw it, but he was not experienced.
I didn't know him. He was just one of those guys who's pretty naturally talented. Saw some videos and thought, I can do this, and sort of just could straight away. Not to a high level, but he was happy power sliding around the big long corners at Silverstone on a demonstration day. And I got in touch with him after because I was mind blown. So I had a little circle of friends around me at that time, some that lived locally and some that were a little bit distant, who were all starting to get interested in drifting.
Yeah.
And that was sort of the first where we just got together and had a few meets here and there and talked about it and tried it on the roads a little bit, and that went really not well because none of us knew what we were doing. And it was ignorance and youth. I think you don't realize the consequences or whatever.
Right.
But where else are you going to start as well? Because there's no events. There's nothing, nowhere to go.
Right.
And England, of course, is famous for its roundabouts. So that's kind of what you did, try to learn on roundabouts. And that's why I'm more comfortable drifting right than I am left.
Right.
Because it's the way all the roundabouts go to this day, sort of thing. And that's kind of how the start of our little scene for me locally started.
Who was doing that stuff with you?
So that was me and Adrian were local.
Uh-huh.
I think he had the first 5-stud converted 180SX by the time we pulled all the bits off. It was quite cool to have GTR wheels on a car that early.
Yeah.
And then there was some guys down in the around Silverstone, James, with the R32 that I spoke of. He had a little crew down there, and I would say they were the first two pockets. And from there, James organised a few events, really low key, on an airfield basically, that we had to stop drifting for the little light aircraft to land sometimes. That's how sort of not legit it was, but they were cool with it. They made us wet the surface, but it was somewhere that we could go legally.
Yeah.
And try to learn. All while this was happening, there was a tuner around the corner from the Silverstone race circuit. And I didn't know him, but James then got to know him. And he had all the things, like SR powered 180SX with Blitz aero kit, Blitz wheels, big turbo, Cusco roll cage, all this sort of stuff, because he was like so far ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And he was just like a G at the time. And he also started putting on events. So we were quite fortunate, really. We had a couple of options. And the guy who ran that tuning company somehow, and I don't know how to this day, but used to rent out the entirety of Silverstone race motor circuit, or whatever the official name is, just for like 15 or 20 of us idiots to pay him £100.
Yeah.
To drift the entire circuit.
Wow.
And I think it was like, I don't even know, thousands and thousands of pounds an hour to rent. And we were lucky enough to go there, but none of us knew what to do. Like, this is third and fourth gear corners, and we barely can get round a roundabout or some cones in the rain.
Yeah.
But, very fortunate to have that springboard to get us going, sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And from the back of that, more people started doing it, I guess. Little extra pockets of people.
Yeah, you're so lucky, because we had to start in the parking lot with like drifting around light poles and cones, and they didn't let us in the track. Like, we couldn't go on the track.
Yeah, it was just, it's sort of gone the other way in England now. It started out because they were naive to it. Yeah, come and do your new thing. Yeah. And then they saw it and were like, no, you can't do that anymore.
Get out.
Yeah.
Unlike one of the most famous racetracks in the world, right?
Yeah, and we had, like, there was a few people who were naturally good at it, like St. James, one of them, but most of us were just terrible.
Yeah.
Just wobbling around, basically, and going in the gravel pits, and it's F1 spec gravel, so once you're in, you're not coming out.
Yeah.
Like, you're a foot deep and your car's kind of ruined.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that's a brief overview. There's lots more little intricacies and ins and outs of people and places and times, but that would be the first bunch of people.
Okay.
That started.
When does Night Spirit come into the picture?
That was also quite early on because of my little Hashiria website, and I was aware that teams were a thing, drift teams were a thing, and you could only dream of having the same cars all painted the same color. That was something that was just above and beyond what normal people could achieve back then.
Yeah.
Like we didn't even have coilovers,
Right.
We had to order coilovers from Japan and wait for 6 months.
Right.
So I wanted to make that team, and I wanted it to have the ethos of the Japanese teams where because some of us just still like street racing, I want to call it, but it's not exactly that, but we wanted to do it in a manner that was similar to what the Japanese did, which was only do it when it's safe to do so, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Don't endanger other people on the road.
Right.
Make sure you keep your business out of the way, kind of thing.
Yeah.
As well as doing the drifting, because I was still interested in both at that time. So yeah, me and this guy called Mark made a little team, and at the start, it was when I had the Starlet and stuff. There was no drifting. It was just me in my car and his MR2 Turbo that he had, which was way faster than my car, but it's just how it was. And then it just branched out as I started meeting more people, and they were all like-minded, and they'd all watch these same VHSs that were sort of doing the rounds.
Yeah.
The VHS, folks, is an old-fashioned CD-ROM. So they'd all watch drifting, and they were lots of just like-minded people, and we started asking questions. Hey, do you want to be part of this team and try and make something of it? Which was kind of before other people had that idea. And I know it's not like a revolutionary thing, but to us it was pretty cool.
Then it was. It's so easy to find all kinds of subcultures these days with social media and the internet. But back in those days, there were not very many websites out there. Like if you were a professional business, you probably had a website, but a lot of them still you didn't, right? So to find common interests about drifting from other people on the internet, it was kind of like a common bond that we had, just because there wasn't a lot of information on it, and it wasn't widely known, and it kind of felt like something underground and really cool.
Yeah, it was that underground feeling, that cool feeling, and that sense of identity almost that I kind of got from it. It's like I could kind of go to work knowing that after work I'm going to have something that I'm going to do that no one else is going to do, sort of thing. And I enjoyed that part of it as well. And then everybody else, we were spread around the country. There were little pockets, like say there was a few near me and a few down south and a few in the Midlands, but we would meet up in the future. Particularly, there was quite a long period where all of us would just cruise on out to events, go drifting with 6, 7, 8 cars, all with a little banner in the front of the windshield, and it was just really good to see. And if you notice now in some of Phil's cars, Phil Morrison from Driftworks, he's still got the Night Spirit banner in the back of the
That's awesome.
S86 and his S15.
Yeah.
So it's just a nice little homage to the times we spent. But it was cool driving down the motorway, all of us in little Corollas, like just having the worst day, but going to an event. It was excellent.
Yeah.
It made everything more fun, basically, and that's the takeaway from drifting. I think is the people you meet more than anything else.
You make it
meet
sound
people who lifelong friends.
You make it sound so sweet and like butterflies and very fantasy like. Like, were there any misfits or like mean people, or I don't know about you, but I mean, when we were doing drifting, there was always like that one person that's like, oh, getting attention, or they're the spectacle, or maybe they're not mean, but they're weird. Like,
we were all the weird ones, I think. Like, we were the weird guys,
But I mean, you guys played nice. Like, it sounds like you guys all had a really nice bond. Like, it was a smaller group, always.
Yeah. Together, like, it was always fine. There was obviously people are a bit brash on the internet. Some of that crept in later on. Not just us, but everybody's saying, it's the internet, people say stuff. And there's a few guys who were a little bit more off the handle than others in terms of what they would sort of do on the streets or do on circuit or whatever, but everyone's relatively normal, which is kind of crazy.
That's nice. We should go drifting.
Good times.
We gotta go see you. Go drifting
We've
in
never
the UK.
been. We gotta go.
I know. Seems like it's
Bring
a
a
lot
coat.
nicer.
No, it's a strange. I would choose to go to America than come to here. Put it that way.
Really? Why?
It's warmer.
We
There's
get
more
sunlight.
ocean.
We get sunlight over
Yeah,
here.
sunlight all the time.
But then your turbo car, well, you don't drive turbo, but like, your turbo car doesn't run good in the heat. They love the cold. So
Yeah. And we are luckier with what cars we can have here. There's sort of basically no real rules. You can
That's true.
kind of have anything. You can import anything as long as you pass the compliance, the early compliance. It doesn't really matter.
Oh.
But it's okay. It's just obviously because you live here and you dream of going to other countries, don't you, and traveling and things like that.
Yeah.
So you could come. We could find fun things to do. But
Yeah.
I would choose California.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
pause. You mentioned a lot of people, and reading through the show notes and stuff. I realized that there was a name that I remember that's not in here. I wanted to ask you about that person.
Sure.
I wanted to ask you about Kiki.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure if you would have known about Kiki, but he was the guy I was mentioning who had the tuning company.
That was
Earlier
Kiki.
at Silverstone. That was Kiki. He was the boss.
That's right.
He turned up in so many cool cars.
I remember he had, was it a Supra? He had a car with full top secret aero.
Yeah, he had a couple of 180SXs, and one of those.
That's
was
right.
top
It was a
secret
180SX. That's right.
He drifted an NSX with staggered work emotions on it when you couldn't get works.
Yeah.
He turned up in the car was 2 years old, BMW E46 M3 with the rear fitment CSL wheels all the way around, and just drifted it around that banger racing oval that we used to go to.
Yeah.
He's Lamborghinis, all sorts. He was the Don, and he did a lot for UK drifting.
I remember he seemed to be pretty good and kind of ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He was definitely leading the way with car preparation, ethos, and his skill behind the wheel. He was leading the way.
Where did he learn from?
I'm not particularly sure.
Yeah.
It may be because of he wasn't long in the UK at that time. I think he came from Thailand before that, so maybe there was a small scene there.
Yeah, because I felt like he came with some experience already and kind of showed you guys a little bit
how to move forward a little bit, or possibly Silverstone's biblically expensive to rent out even back then.
Yeah.
So we used to have competitions there in like 2002, 3, and 4. And one of my friends lived nearby, and he was walking out in the morning with his dog, I think he said, and he heard the familiar SSQV blow-off valve noise, and he was like, I'll take a walk over to Silverstone. And Kiki and the Option Motorsport guys had rented Silverstone for themselves on a Thursday just to practice before the competition on the Saturday. It's like, that's pretty baller.
Yeah, it is.
So maybe that's why he was better than us.
You could tell from his cars that he was a baller.
Yeah, everything was just perfect.
Yeah.
Nobody orders a Cusco roll cage because they don't work, but they just look cool. He did. Yeah. Yeah, and every one of the guys in his team, because he had the Option Drift Club team, they all had Blitz wheels, all the different designs. Their S14s were like a year old at that time.
Yeah.
With Blitz wheels and coilovers and cages, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was switched on, and like I say, the UK drift scene, he definitely accelerated it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Let's start talking a little bit about when the guys from Japan came over and pro drifting started to get established. Yeah.
I suppose we start with the Ken Nomura visit.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, that was hilarious. So,
around what year was that?
I think it was 2004, but it might have been 2005. I'm a little bit foggy. And when you Google Nomuken Birmingham wheels, nothing comes up.
Yeah.
Because I guess nobody cared. But on Driftworks, the forum, because that was quite a big part of the drift culture.
Yeah.
At that time, a guy just posted up, random new user saying Ken Nomura's coming to Birmingham to drift on this date, and we're like, that's a hoax. That's not true. That's never going to happen. And then the internet did the thing that the internet does and started calling him out and saying this and saying that and saying the other. And turned out Ken Nomura came to Birmingham Wheels, and then like 8 people turned up. I want to say, and maybe 9 at a push. And yeah,
that's crazy.
It was terrible, really. He tried to drive Frederick's
he didn't bring
AE86.
a car. He drove other people's cars.
He just turned up.
Okay.
But how it really happened was the guy who organised it all worked with a guy who looked after aspiring Formula One drivers from all over the world, including Japan. So he was a Japanese native, and he was their go-to guy to get them into a team, because Milton Keynes in that area in England, in Silverstone, is like the home of F1. Even now, all the teams are based out of there. So he would try and get drives to these guys and get them introduced and get them on their way up through the F Series cars and things. And he had the connections in Japan to get drifting going over here, and it was part of a bigger picture. And we didn't realize any of that was happening in the background. We just saw this random guy say he's coming. We turned up, like a few of us, just out of curiosity, and there he was. It was like, oh, this is real then. So we had a little competition, and it was, like I say, it was quite terrible, but a couple of drivers really stood out.
Yeah.
Frederick Sawley was one. He came over with the AE86, and it was like 200 horsepower. It was a serious engine, and he just blew the doors off everyone. He knew, so it was at a banger racing oval that was lined by the solid walls, but Frederick knew that the walls don't move. You move to the walls, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he was like inches from the wall, and we were all going, oh yeah, we're in trouble here. And he obviously won that day. Nomura judged the day, and he won because he was another person who pushed us to try and be better.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of happened every time visitors come over. I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but when Japanese came over, or Australian, like Luke Fink came over and again pushed the game every time they come and visit. It's a little step up.
Yeah.
When that happened, and then following that, a part of the bigger plan, the D1 GP exhibition rounds happened at Silverstone, and they were pretty fun too. Like, obviously seeing all your heroes and stuff in real life, and then seeing your friends who managed to get a license, not this guy, racing down the straight with Kumakubo. It's like, wow, that's genuinely awesome.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of good adventures around that time as well, involving all of the friends and some of the drivers from D1 and things like that. It was cool, really good.
This episode is brought to you by Lot USA. Lot USA has been the master distributor of Brid racing seats for the past 18 years. Celebrating their 42 years in operation, Brid manufactures high-quality performance products for circuit, drag, GT, and drift.
Nadine and I have always run Brid seats in our cars, and even today, Brid seats are the latest mod in our new drift car. Our favorite seats are the FIA-approved Zeta 4 and the reclinable bucket seat, the Stradia 3.
One of the latest releases from Brid is the Zeta 4 Vireo, which is a size small version of the Zeta 4 for petite drivers. Visit lot-usa.com for more info and follow them on IG at lot_USA. This episode is brought to you by Bartleby. Bartleby is a car builder and tuner in the Central Texas, Austin area. In addition to other Nissans like the 350Z, they specialize in GTRs, R32 through 35, and has over 10 years experience. In terms of tuning, they work with most standalone ECUs like Motec, M-Tron, Link, Haltech, and AEM, to name a few. Bartleby has tuned some of our friends' infamous cars, including J-Spec Sam's blue R32 GTR. When we get our GTR, we know where we're sending it to get tuned. Bartleby. For more info, visit bartleby.com and be sure to check out their dyno tuning videos on IG at Bartleby. So you came to the United States eventually. You had D1 there, and then I think in 2007 you came and paid a visit to your internet friend Benson.
Yeah. It was totally not weird.
You know what's funny is I have like one, like I only of all of the time that we spent. I mean, it wasn't a lot, but we went drifting together. We went to Willow Springs Raceway. We went to the Oval, and we were drifting. And you drove Benson's car. Tell me what you remember about drifting in America.
Definitely didn't crash. Only a little one though.
That was not a crash.
Little one. Yeah, the bumper fell off.
Yeah.
Because I went a little bit too wide, I didn't realize the edge of the circuit was like a foot of drop and then just stones. So you don't want to be in a dirt drop there. But yeah, I remember it just being an amazing time. Really, I think we weren't there for long enough, really, but it was what we could manage at the time. But I just remember how amazing it was to have the windows down in your car, and when you transitioned, you just got like hot, warm air in the face.
Because it's
rather
hot
than
here.
just cold and rain.
Yeah.
So hot there in the desert.
Yeah,
and,
man.
I remember seeing Steve's AE86 was just as perfect as is in the pictures, like not a mark on it anywhere.
Yeah.
And just super privileged to drive your car. It was brilliant.
Benson,
going all that way. And
Benson doesn't really let anybody drive his car. I mean, I drive his car. That's it. So you must have been a really special internet friend to be able to drive. Like, hey, we met on the internet. I'm gonna come visit, and then you can drive my car.
Yeah, just give me the keys to your car.
Yeah.
Come stay at my house. You can drive my good car.
Don't be strange. But it was really like a really good trip, and really grateful to drive the car. It was so much better than what I was used to as well. It was so nice and easy to drive at a lower level sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just going around an S oval, but it was so nice to do.
What did
to be
you
trusted with it as well?
What did you think of Willow Springs versus where you're at drifting?
Yeah, I mean the main track looked really cool.
Yeah.
The Horse Thief Mile and stuff, because I'd seen that on a lot of videos from All Star Bash. Was it called back in the day?
ASB? Yeah.
Yeah, it looked really cool, and the elevation changes looked awesome. But just the oval was super fun. It's nice you go all that way and to get to drive the car anywhere is a bonus. And I feel at that time I was quite comfortable drifting, which helped because I'd done a lot of it that year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was super good. But the whole trip was awesome. I remember distinctly trying to find Graham at like 4 a.m. because the cat had got out.
Yeah.
We were like walking around the streets just shouting Graham.
That was with you. I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm going to look back on this and be like, I was in America in someone's driveway just shouting Graham.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's pretty cool.
Graham, our cat.
Yeah.
Oh. Ben, that's our Gushiato cat. Like Benson found it at Ken Gushi's dad's mechanic shop, and he gifted it to me. A dirty orange cat.
Well, Nadine always wanted a cat. Nadine always wanted a cat, and every time I went there to Gushiato, he was there, and it was this like little brown cat, and and it was a kitten, and so I was just like, maybe I really like Nadine. I'll let her, have a cat.
He'll let me.
Yeah,
I'll gift her a cat, and then, we washed it, and it wasn't brown anymore. It was white and orange. So anyway, that's the story of Graham.
The last day as well. We just woke up because we were flying out that day.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there was more than just Graham, right? There was other kittens, I think.
Yes.
And it just cruised on into the bedroom and jumped on the bed and just did a massive waz all over the bed. And I'm like, dude, why would you do this? It's going to think it's me.
Sorry.
Just let one rip. And I'm like, texting you, help. I remember that quite vividly. I'm like, it definitely wasn't me. It was the cat.
I forgot about that.
That's how we show
my friend.
In America. That's how we show we like you.
Yeah, we did a lot of fun things. We also drove Toge together because we'd been friends for so long, and so you knew about the roads that we drove and all the stuff that would happen, and I know we would correspond a lot. So we got to do that.
What car did we take? I don't even remember that.
You guys were in the G35.
Oh yeah,
time, I think, and I was
in your rental car,
faux Mustang. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, a Mustang.
Convertible, right? You guys got a convertible, right? I can't remember.
I don't recall it. Probably not. I would have burned my head too much.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember it well. That was awesome. That road was incredible. And that night when we got there and there was like no smog, and you're like, this is very rare that there's no smog.
Yeah, it was clear just for you.
Yeah, it was sweet. And
we went to an AE86 meet.
Yeah, I remember that. It was awesome. I remember seeing on the first night like some sort of Pontiac Firebird, I'm guessing. I don't know what it was, but it was black with the gold thing on the bonnet. And I was like, that's a cool car. And you were like, nope, that is not a cool car. It was pretty funny. And
you're like that guy from Top Gear that likes all the American cars.
Yeah, you just don't see him. Whoa, look at that. Yeah, it was cool, man.
Yeah.
The mountain road was insane. We had to stop halfway because she felt sick.
That's right. And, it was very windy.
I remember on the way back, Christy was in the back of the car with me and Laura driving back.
Yeah.
And she was just asleep.
Yeah.
Just flat out in the back of the car.
Yeah.
Didn't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool, man. A really good trip. And like I say, I wouldn't have thought you could get to know someone as well as I think me and you may have done just through messaging.
Yeah.
On the internet and so on. But when we met, it was just like we'd been friends for that whole time. Anyway, it was quite cool.
Yeah, definitely. That doesn't happen very often. I think I have a couple of friends that I consider close that I did a lot of interaction over the internet, and that's you and Rob Ryder. I mean, I think our personalities are very similar too, so kind of lends itself in that direction.
Yeah.
Kind of see eye to eye on a lot of things, and we kind of, we see the world in the same way.
Yeah, it's a really good time, and it's just a lot of good memories. And also, Nadine said pretty much our favourite thing of the trip when we were going on the last day. I think she said something along the lines of "Thanks for not being weird." No problem. Try my best.
And that was the truth. It was like normal, not scary internet friends staying in our house.
Yeah, you can imagine just some weird, because like now I imagine kids and young people go on the internet and do dating and all sorts of stuff. But back then when we were talking, it was creepy. It could be anybody there. You don't know who that person is. You don't know anything about them.
We're very trusting.
Right. And there's a lot of knowledge these days about catfishing and how to deal with that stuff and how to be careful. And
can you imagine if he showed up and it was like he wasn't who
like
he said he was?
600-pound woman.
Yeah, that'd be legit. Yeah, we got away with that one. We were all who we said we were. Fantastic.
With no drifting experience ever driving your car.
Yeah, here you go. Just drive that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just like riding a bike.
Yeah. Just leave it in second gear. That's all you need to know.
You know what's funny though? I was looking at your bio and it's mostly what you wrote about yourself, like on the DriftWorks forum intro page. And if you guys ever just Google Chris Parry and like it's probably the second result or something. And it was crazy because I laugh at people and I go, what car do you have? Wouldn't it be funny if you put like a different engine? Like, and we laugh when we always talk about like putting SRs and RX-7s. And then I read that you put a S2K motor in a 86. So I want to talk to you about that, which is crazy because I don't remember you doing that. And I don't really know people that actually have enough guts to do that. So walk us through that experience putting a Honda engine in your hachiroku.
Yeah, I will outline the whole thing with it was a learning experience, that's for sure. But I have the red Truno I had at the time, the run-free car, was super cool. I love that car and it drove well, and I did most of my best competitions in that car. But I thought that the game was moving on. I need some more power. So I either got greedy, yeah. Mm-hmm. I either throw like a lot of money at a 4AG to try and get 15 more horsepower, 20 more horsepower out of it, and keep breaking gearboxes, or I try and have some turnkey reliability. And I'd seen that John from JSP was having pretty good results with his. So I reached out to him, and that's the only thing I feel bad about it for, is because John helped me a lot, and I didn't like the end result. So I feel I've always felt a bit bad about it, but I just didn't get on with it. But I spent all winter like completely bare metal in the car, underneath, on top, everything, getting the engine in. Basically, like I had a few friends help me and a couple of family members. It was mostly me, and with support from Laura and stuff helping me out when she could. But it was like 4 a.m. nights and things like that, getting it all ready.
You're making Laura work on your car too? Oh my gosh.
I try my best.
That's love right there.
She
That's
loves
love.
working on cars with me.
Oh.
But also she would give me the free time to say, I know this is important to you, so feel free to spend as long as you need to get this done on time. So things is very understanding of her,
Guys, that's love right there. Like when your girl is like, cool, I give you the time for things you love besides myself. Yeah.
Yeah. She knows it was important. So we did a lot of work, and there was some nights literally like 4 a.m. in the morning where I've given up, it's broken me, and I'm like, I don't want to do it anymore. Carry on. So he did all that work, painted the car, everything, and in some lady's garage that I rented for like £10 a week or something, and put it on the dyno, and it made like 210 horsepower. I'm thinking, what is this? Slow was what it was. And then I drove it, and it didn't handle like I wanted it to, and I didn't have the knowledge to tune that handling the way that I wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
I just assumed I could put this huge engine in because it's so much bigger than a 4AG.
Yeah.
And it would all be fine. And yeah, it wasn't. It just wasn't. I did not get on with it, but I tried my best to work around the problems and tune it and go as I went, try and make it more like what I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Never really got there. And it didn't even really have that much more power. It didn't spin the wheels in fourth at all. Like, it was the same as a Corolla. You had to really be huffing along to make it
Has
work.
to be really high in the RPMs, right?
High in the RPMs.
Way higher than
gear
in a
for the right
4AG.
time.
Yeah, because you need that VTEC to kick in.
Gotta have the VTEC, yeah.
What did you start with though? What was your horsepower that you started with, like with your old motor?
I had a pretty nice 16 valve setup. It was about 160 something horsepower.
Wow.
It was really peaky, but it just worked, and I could get around Silverstone, which is one of my proudest moments. Was the Silverstone corners are quite fast.
Yes.
And it was a top of fourth or fifth gear entry, and you cannot make a mistake if you're off the throttle for like half a second too long. Your run's over, sort of thing. And I was happy with the car, but in my mind, next year, 2008, was going to be more, bigger tracks, more power.
Yeah.
So I went down that route, and then all the tracks went to car parks basically with cones. Like, I should have just kept the engine that I had, really.
Oh my gosh!
You live and learn, and then obviously I crashed it, so rubbish anyway.
Yeah, I found a picture too. I kind of stole it. I've been stealing pictures of you on the internet.
Let's talk about that crash a little bit. Is it because it wasn't set up the way that you liked? What happened there?
So as far as I was actually enjoying the car that day. It was one of the few days where I felt like it was going okay. So I'd done my first two qualifying runs, and I was kind of getting into a groove. But the surface was quite bumpy. I came in a little bit offline, transitioned. So it was a fast right in, flick left, and then a long sweeping left-hander, basically.
Yeah.
As I flicked right, everything was fine, but I was a bit offline in a bump that I didn't know was there. So I flicked left, and the car bottomed out. The front suspension completely hit the bump stops and bound up on the chassis. So my wheels were pointing that way.
Yeah.
And the car just went that way.
Yeah.
Straight into the concrete barrier, basically. And I possibly could have tried to spin it round and got the side into the concrete wall, but you only react with the information that you're given.
Right.
You make the call as you go.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a huge crash, but it put me out for the day. And as far as I knew at that time, that shell was a write-off because the struts had moved and stuff. Knowing what I know now, my friend and Ian could have just fixed it. He could have just pulled it out, cut it off, and tubed the front end, but we didn't have that sort of thing back then. It wasn't really the norm. But yeah, it was a decent crash.
What event was that?
Pretty sad. That was 2008 EDC round 3, I think. That was when Kumakubo and Tanaka came over in the Subarus, which was quite cool. So that event's quite bittersweet because I crashed the car, didn't like the car, but also it turned out after that I'd qualified 4th, which was probably one of my best results in that EDC season for that year.
Yeah.
And I think Kumakubo was 1st, Tanaka was 2nd, and Phil Morrison was 3rd. I was quite happy to be 4th behind those guys as some heavy hitters.
Yeah.
So
that was a win.
It was nice. Yeah, it was a win for me, and I'm not too bitter about the car because I hated it anyway. So the only sad thing is you can't go back in time and change things. You just have to learn from what you did.
I remember we talked a lot, and anytime there was a big event that you went to, I would watch the videos, I would look at the pictures, and I would talk to you about the event. And I remember that day. I remember watching the videos and telling you, well, for a while, like you would do very, very well at Silverstone. And I remember I would, you being humble and everything, I would always try and let you know how much I saw in your driving. And I remember that day telling you how good you were, and asking if Kumakubo or Tanaka had anything to say about it. Do you remember that?
briefly.
They commented on your driving.
People say things good. I'll kind of just block it out.
Yeah, I know. I'm the same way.
It doesn't. I don't know. It's just awkward to me. I don't know why. I don't know why it is.
You just. I don't know. I don't know why either. I can't explain it. But I remember you telling me that they noticed your driving and they thought you were really good. And that's a huge compliment coming from those guys at that time. I think, Kumakubo and Tanaka were like at the top of their game, and they were kind of some of the best tandem drivers in the world.
Yeah, that event, those events that they came to, they just came over and like again just showed us what to do.
Yeah,
this is how tandem drifting is done, sort of thing. The cars were awesome as well. Again, ahead of the game in terms of not of everybody's car, but the prep is basically like a GT car level.
Yeah,
it was awesome to see.
Anytime they brought their cars anywhere, they brought tons of spare parts with them too.
Yeah,
pit crew and everything.
The full works.
Yeah. But also,
and you guys have had a lot more exposure to those cars than we have. I feel they've come to America with that kind of stuff a lot more.
Yeah, it's true.
Everything we ever saw was awesome.
It's true, but Option did some really cool events with you guys. They did D1 rounds over there, and you guys saw all the cool cars that we would see as well.
They were good events. It was always funny to see like. Certain cars were just rough, like our cars.
Yeah,
really bad, like the Soras and stuff. They were just street cars essentially.
Up close.
Some of them were super cool.
Yeah.
Like Shinji's AE86, that was just a street car, kind of with stuff pulled out, but they're just fantastic drivers,
Yeah.
Watched them and just tried to learn from them.
Nice. Well, I heard a little birdie told me that you drove. Here comes the heavy-hitting question. No, I'm just joking. No, but I heard you drove Nürburgring. What's up with that? And where is that in relation to where you live? And what'd you do there? Because I heard some rumors.
Yeah. So it's probably from door to circuit like a 12-hour journey from where I live. This is like a couple of hours on a ferry across the English Channel.
Oh, you ferry there?
Yeah, it's like a 4 or 5 hour drive from my house to the coast, ferry, and then another 4 or 5 into Germany.
Oh.
But we didn't. Obviously, everybody's heard about it, and we thought one day, me and my friend Jay, we're just going to go. Let's just book some time off work and go. And that was 2007. I had a BMW that I'd paid £250 for like the week before. I just threw some brake pads in it and off we went.
Was it a missile?
It was tidy for that money back then. They were good cars, yeah. It was like these things were super cheap. If you could have just parked them up now, you'd be quite well off.
Yeah.
But back then, nobody wanted them.
But you bought it. Did you buy it to like keep it and fix it up nice, or is it like just a throwaway car?
I bought it to tow my AE86 around.
What?
That's what I used it for mostly. Yeah, it had a tow bar on it.
Your tow vehicle.
That's a good roll. That was my tow car. Yeah. So you had to bed it in by going to the Nürburgring.
Oh.
And it was just a really good weekend. And because, again, at that time I was drifting quite a lot, so I was reasonably comfortable. And the first day it was raining, so me and Jay just tried to drift every corner that we thought we could survive.
What?
And
that's crazy.
Yeah, it was super good, like open diff drifting, just like changing down gears to shift lock and things like that.
With all the tire savings.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Dried up the next day, and then the back of the car set on fire because some wiring rubbed through, but that's just normal Nürburgring stuff.
Oh, really?
But from then on, we went back like twice a year for 2 or 3 years, until we decided we shouldn't go anymore.
How fast do you go on the Nürburgring?
Car dependent, but like the fastest I've gone is about 145 mile an hour.
Oh my god!
There's like 2 sections where you can go that fast.
Are you flooring it down? Are you flooring it down those long straights, or are you kind of just?
After at first you're just completely terrified. Like, the whole place is
I'm terrified on Gran Turismo, so
yeah, and the elevation changes, dude, are unreal. Like some of the hills are like that, but it never comes across on the games.
Yeah,
so you have to. It takes hundreds and hundreds of laps to know where you're going, to know like little intricacies where bumps are and stuff. But after about like 3 or 4 visits, I would say that some of the places I was comfortable enough to know that you can just come out of a certain corner and just keep it pinned for X amount of hundreds and hundreds of yards because you know there's nothing coming, sort of thing.
And you were drifting.
And those are the 2 places.
How fast were you going when you were drifting?
We're not that. It's like probably 40 to 60, 70 mile an hour because you pick and choose your fights.
Yeah.
Because some of the corners are like 120 mile an hour corners. It's not something you want to be having a crash there at all because it would be very messy. Very messy.
That sounds scary.
I've had it go wrong a few times because I didn't realise. As you say, I know where lefts and rights are, but I don't know where bumps are or strange undulations. If you hit an undulation that you aren't aware of at 120 as you turn into a corner, then yeah, things get a bit hectic. But then there's also the problem that if your car fails or breaks or drops fluid or anything like that, you are responsible for other cars crashing on that fluid. So after we had a bit of an incident, we decided we shouldn't go there anymore.
Is it so it's not lawless there, like at the Nürburgring, like it's regulated and people are watching you? Yeah.
So everyone's insured because it's a toll road. So all European insurance covers you for all eventualities.
Oh.
But English insurance doesn't cover you. So they'll pay third party if someone else is, crashed on your oil or you've done something or whatever. But then they'll get the money back off you. And as you can imagine, if something goes really wrong, which happened to us, then there's helicopters involved for air ambulances and the track's shut and there's like 12 cars have crashed on your oil and they're all Porsche GT3s. Whoever dropped the oil has to pay for all of that. So it's quite intense.
Wait, so that happened to you?
Yeah, that happened to us on the last trip that I went on. Yeah, it's crazy.
So you had to pay for all that?
I got really lucky. So it happened to one of my friends. And he was... Ultimately, the bottom line was you have to pay for all of this. But luckily, there was a loophole in the law and a good lawyer and all that kind of stuff. It was very ugly. But I was driving around the lap, as you do. My coilovers had just started coming loose. I could hear a knocking noise at the front of the car. I didn't know it was the coilovers at the time, but I backed off and took it easy to get around the lap. So where I'm normally doing 110, 120 over the brow of this hill, I was doing 80 and I hit the oil and the car, I'm usually quite funny, proud of my steering work a little bit personally. I like to have good steering when you're drifting, but my hands were just going everywhere when I hit the oil. It was like just baking a cake or throwing pizza or whatever just to survive.
You were the Swedish chefs. You were the Swedish chefs in the Muppets.
Yeah, literally, just to live. It was intense, and I got to the bottom of the hill where the oil was, and I just drove through this scene that looked like something from Vietnam. There was just cars crash.
Yeah.
Oh,
on the other side of the road, crash. There was, 15 cars.
Wow.
And, I drove through it thinking, I'm pretty glad I didn't crash, but I'm pretty sure that's my friend who's caused this accident. So yeah, then we learned the hard way that you only go to do track days there, basically paid track days and not the public days.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
Okay, that's a good story. So, but you were drifting on the Nürburgring in 2007. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the first time we went, yeah.
Wow. That's so cool.
Friend, I don't know if you remember the corner called the Carousel, which is banked draining. Jay tried to drift around there twice.
Did he drift on the inside of the carousel or on the outside?
Yeah, he tried on the inside, on the banked part.
Yeah.
The second time it didn't go well, and he ended up with no front splitter and bumper pushed up and wheels off the ground and things like that. We didn't know any different. We didn't think bad things could happen there.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing. That was good. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we don't go there anymore.
So
I want to go. I'm gonna go.
You should go and just rent a car or do it on a track day for sure. Then you're covered.
Bring a GTR. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
R35 GTR, Nürburgring. Done.
I'm a little scared.
Rent a GTR from one of the shops there.
That's true.
Yeah.
They rent cars there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's the best way to do it.
Okay. We'll take you with us. You show us the ropes.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
You have some trauma.
So pause. I know we kind of brushed over a lot of your competitions. I in the very beginning of the episode, I mentioned all of your achievements, right? Which is a very big list. But we didn't really go over it much. But you were competing a lot, and you were having a lot of success. And I always thought that, I think we brushed over this as well, like how much I thought of your talent. I always thought you were a very good driver, and you pushed really hard, and that's what you need in hachiroku. I definitely think you are one of the major influences of hachiroku drivers and fans in the UK. You always had really great style, but you always backed it up with your driving. And like you mentioned in that corner of Silverstone, there's no room for mistakes when you are driving a hachiroku with that amount of power. To be able to make it through, your line has to be spot on. Your entry speed needs to be spot on, and your throttle is down to the floor the entire time. There's no adjustment to that. But yeah, I did want to mention that. But you had a lot of success, and then things started to slow down. Can you talk about like what led to that, or what were your experiences competing?
Sure. So I appreciate your kind words as well.
I can't say it enough. I like that.
I don't believe
small,
it myself.
I know you don't.
Drift better.
I know you don't.
Take the compliment.
That little amount of time I spent explaining that does not sum up how I feel that you are an amazing driver.
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
take the compliment. My goodness.
Yeah, competition. I enjoyed it, and it was the best way to drive on tracks because there weren't really any practice days, so to speak. So that's a lot of why we did it. And in the early days, I obviously failed to get my D1 licenses. That's why I couldn't drive with them. But it annoyed me to the point where I thought I really have to try hard now because I'm just drifting at low angle. I'm not doing it right. Blah blah blah. So all through those competition years, that was a reason for me to try and be better. And I enjoyed that, and that's, I think, why I did reasonably well, because I always wanted to improve, try and push hard.
Yeah.
But after I crashed the Honda car, I wanted to come back, and I wanted to again, and I reshelled it into another car ready to go sort of thing. But you start asking questions and wondering why you're doing it, and is it heading where you want it to head in terms of the circuits and the sport itself at that time? And financially as well, I had sponsors which helped me out, but it's never paid for.
Yeah.
And you've done it yourself. You pay for the entry fee, you pay for your transport, your hotels, thousands of pounds around basically. And there was a time where I thought perhaps I could make this major blossom into some sort of career or a role or something where you could, like it has in America for a lot of people. But we didn't really get that in England. There's a couple of people who earned a living from it, and that's great.
Yeah.
But I started to realize this probably isn't going to ever happen because I'm too stubborn to drive a car that's good, and I'm only interested in AE86 driving at that time anyway. So I thought I'm just going to calm down and just focus on having fun, and more tracks were opening for that purpose, just to have fun. Like there was Mallory Park, Buxton Raceway, which was another oval, but it was very much fun and very cheap. So I just thought to myself, I'm just going to do it for me, and I'm going to start enjoying, maybe try other cars as well, which I've never done. So that was sort of the catalyst for the change, really. Like a realization that maybe isn't all it's cracked up to be, and am I having fun? Yes or no? If not, do the thing that seems fun to me.
Right.
So that was the change.
Okay. And so you talked about driving other cars, and I know that I can tell by your car style that you are a hachiroku purist in a lot of ways.
Miserable.
But you've had an S13, and you had an S14 as well, right? I think that one was for a short amount of time, and an S15.
Yeah, gotta try them all.
What was your experience with those cars?
They're all just all pretty
amazing.
Incredible. Yeah, amazing. They're not the be all and end all, and there's AE86 is still very fun to drive.
Yes, it's very different. The experience is so different.
Yeah, very different. And once I got used to the way that the cars would pile on speed when you accelerated, rather than just maintain or go slower.
Yes.
It was a lot of fun. And the Sylvia, the S13 was set up horribly from Japan.
Yeah.
All the shocks were blown and things like that. It was just bouncing everywhere. So I fixed all of the problems basically, and that was a great car to drive. Didn't have that for too long because it had like a Uras body kit on it.
Yeah.
Very pushed down. Everyone like just laughed at it as I was driving down the road and stuff. Like, yeah, this isn't my style, and you couldn't find a PS13 bumper at all. You just couldn't find one. But it was really fun to drive, and I did all the work on that and made it D1 regulation, roll cage, everything, and I wanted another go at competing in that car, and then just sold it for some reason. Like the week before I was supposed to enter this round of competition, I don't know why. Just something must have happened. And the S14 was great as well. It was really, really bad condition when I bought it. Like there wasn't a straight panel on the car, but that's what I wanted it for. Because at that time, all the videos you saw out of Japan, really tight, close tandems were the thing.
Oh, this was the missile era.
Yeah, I thought I need a car to have a go of that sort of thing because we've never done it before. So the S14 was perfect, and it had even more dented panels by the time I'd sold it. But it was, again, good car. I never had any reliability issues with any of the Nissans I've had, which maybe I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
I found that I could sort of drive him in a Corolla style as well because none of them had masses of power.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to see what they were like.
Which one did you prefer? I mean, I know you prefer the hachiroku probably, but if you had to choose between a S13, 14, and 15, what 15. Was your 15?
Yeah, that car was legit. I wish I didn't have to sell it, but like it needed to go, but it was so good.
Why did
I felt like that was the last car that I built with my friends, and I thought that was going to be the last car that I drift. I want to just, because trends come and go. So the S14 was like a missile sort of car. The AE86 that followed that, a lot of other people were getting into AE86s again, so we could do like team drifting, which was cool. And then the Naoki sort of Kansai style started to become more popular, and I thought I'd like to see if I'm even capable of getting like 10% close to what those guys can do. So you need the right tool for the job.
Yeah.
So S15 B knuckles, massive spacers, and huge rear tires, and just amazing. You couldn't. I couldn't make the car spin. Like it would not spin out. It was just incredible. It just sit at any. It wouldn't power through because it had like 270 horsepower or something. But for throwing the car into a corner with big angle, it was just unreal.
Love it.
So yeah, I'd like to keep that car, and I think it looked cool as well.
It looked really good.
Yeah.
It looked really good. It was painted full aero. It had nice wheels. Like it. That was like a pause AE86 spec S15. I would say just immaculate. It looked great.
It was really good, but I really wanted to paint it green, like Kazama green.
You can't do that.
But the guy who built the cars with me said, "Nah, it's just going to be horrible." And I was like, "No, we got to paint it green. No, it'll be disgusting." And when I saw it come out of the booth all red, I was like, "Yeah, you're probably right," because it was a big car. You know, by the time it had the body kit on and stuff, there's a lot of red.
Yeah.
It would have looked bad.
Is Kazama green? Is Kazama green the green that he has his cars now, or is Kazama green like the K Office green?
I think K Office green was what I was aiming for.
Okay.
But I found that it was. Do you have you don't have Renault Clios over there?
No, we don't.
Hatchback. So they did a sweet color called Alien Green, I think.
And
I was like, I want that color on this car. But he's like, no, it's not happening. I'm not painting
Your
that.
painter said no.
Yeah, there's no way I'm putting that colour in my gun and painting. It's just not happening. My name's attached to this car. You're not doing it, sort of thing. Yeah, good car.
I love it.
And we didn't talk about your 3 Series. You had a period in time when you had that 3 Series and you were drifting, or maybe you had a couple, but you were just
loads. Yeah,
you were just drifting those.
Yeah, there was a time when I had no choice because a sponsor took my car off me and said he was going to build me an engine, and then just didn't give me back for a year, and didn't come back with an engine. Just came back with a wiring loom that had been chewed by mice and stuff. So, but yeah, BMWs back then was super cheap. So while your drift car stayed on the driveway waiting for competitions or whatever it would be, you could just buy a cheap 3 Series or 5 Series or anything like that and go and just do anything in it and not worry too much because it wasn't expensive in any way.
Yeah.
So they were just a cheap option, and they stood up to the abuse. So you could also use it to go to work in and things like that. Whereas driving to work in an 86 with a 5.3 rear end on it and stuff is it's not the one. It ages you. Yeah, it's not the one. So yeah, a few of those just because of the price of them, and they were just fun, just easy to get along with.
Yeah.
I didn't find them very good for like dynamic drifting, if that makes sense.
Right.
But just doing basic stuff with the hydraulic handbrake and stuff like that, they were okay. But I could never get one to throw into a corner.
Right.
I've seen that Palmer Sanderson in the States, he's got his dialed now.
His is pretty dialed, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's again just more modern setup, and
there's more knowledge too. I mean, I think because of that car being as expensive as it was for a little bit amount of time, a lot of people started buying them and people started figuring stuff out.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like with your S15, right? Where, when you own the S13 and S14, the knowledge wasn't there yet, but you kind of bought the S15 at the right time where there's so much knowledge about suspension setup and steering angle and all of that stuff. And like that allowed you to dial in that car pretty easily.
Yeah, quite quickly. You didn't have to invent anything or think of anything. I just ordered the bits off the internet. Or Phil thankfully sent me the bits that I needed to finish the car, and paint by numbers really.
Yeah.
No thought required apart from learning a little bit about damper settings for that kind of car.
Yeah.
It's a good car.
So we're winding down here. I wanted to ask you about your driving, the people that inspired you through their driving and their cars. Your driving, like I said already, your driving skill is amazing. Your car style is amazing. All of your, I would say all of your hachirokus looked great. Very Japanese style. I wanted to ask where all of your inspirations came from. If you can talk on that.
Yeah, with the sort of the genesis of it again was Slide Squad, and I remember to this day again it's etched in my mind a picture of Kaicho and Yamashita's red AE86s parked in the garage at Ibisu, nose to tail.
Yeah,
I'd never seen anything that cool in my life. So basically, I just copy those guys with the red cars. There's nothing. You can't reinvent that style. There's no point trying to be different or paint it some strange color and try and make something new because they've already achieved perfection. So I just aimed at that style basically. Those, in terms of aesthetics, those two guys were like the kings of the way a Corolla should look.
Yes.
In terms of driving, it's obvious, the obvious Wayo connection that everyone makes. I still don't really understand how he transitions the car as violently as he does every corner.
I don't know
I've
who
tried
does
to mimic it, but
no one can. I don't think I've ever seen anyone transition the way he does. I don't know how much of it is car setup and how much of it is his driving ability.
Why don't you ask him? Where is he?
I don't know. I'm sure there are some people that can ask him. But I shared this story before, Pause. I don't know if I shared it with you, but we were at Irwindale Speedway and like a lot of the D1 drivers were sitting there watching us doing practice. And so I went up to a bunch of them and I asked them for advice. And Ueo told me to make my transitions like snappy and fast off of the bank. And I was just like to me, it's just like, okay, I don't know how to do that.
Explain to me now.
Look at every single other D1 driver out here with you. No one does it like you. So I don't That's kind of like funny advice to give.
You missed your opportunity. Yeah. You could have asked him.
Help me more, please. Just do it better. That's great advice. Thank you. I'll go and do it better. Yeah, I've tried so much to do in it. You can feel like you're getting close sometimes, but you consistently hit that mark.
Yeah.
With just the violence.
Yeah.
And taking lock back off to put lock back on to clutch kick the car to snap it round, and every time. Yeah, so in terms of driving, these are the obvious answer. There are other Corolla drivers that you see that are awesome, but there's so many of them. And also guys like Justin in Hawaii and Royce.
Shout out to Justin and Royce.
Those guys, they helped me out as well. They were so friendly, just over email, some random guy.
Yeah.
How do you flare? Oh, she's on a Corolla.
Yes.
Replied.
I love that.
They were friendly guys, really good at driving, and the car style was brilliant.
Car style was spot on.
Accessible. Like, we couldn't speak to people in Japan.
Yeah.
But we could speak to those guys, and the same for yourself. I could speak to you and ask you how to do this or that.
Yeah.
Whereas, there was no Instagram. Obviously, there was no links. There's no obvious.
No video chat back then.
No video chat.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
you can watch like a AE86 club video, and you can see like what kind of springs people are using. But beyond that, you don't know what they're saying.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, they're just no idea about toe or anything like that. Or camber settings. Maybe you got lucky with camber sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, figure. But yeah. So those were the initial.
I love that.
Sort of influences with style. So I've just stuck with that formula, really.
Yeah.
Boring. Just do what looks good, and don't try and be inventive.
Right. Just do the right thing.
Yeah. Just do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a little bit more to it than that. You can't just buy the parts and stick them on a car.
Definitely.
You've got to work with the car, and
they all need
sitting just so.
They all need to work together.
Yeah.
You can't
it's all got to work right. You can't just throw them on.
Right.
But
exactly.
Pretty much just do what those guys did.
Yeah.
Love it. Oh. I see why you have Paz on the show. He's a badass, but he's a humble badass. I think that should be like the tagline. Like, Chris Parry, the humble badass. Like,
just an average guy. That's what me and Jay used to say. Like, when we started competing, let's just go and blend in. That's all we want to do is blend in.
Blend in.
If we can blend in, we can go home happy.
See your resume, bro. You can't blend in. Oh my gosh. No.
Aim low.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
You definitely did not aim low. Pause. Come on. This is your list here is very, very impressive.
Thank you.
He doesn't care.
I know you don't
He
care.
doesn't even care. He's like, what list? Whatever.
You're gonna take it. You're gonna take it, and you're gonna like it.
No, I am. You have looking back. Yeah, I am, like I said, secretly a little bit proud of it. We did all right.
Secretly a little. Oh my god.
Yeah, we did okay, especially with the car, and sticking true to what I initially attracted me to drifting. It was cool to get the results that we did, and still have fun at the same time. It was still very enjoyable.
Yeah.
Right. The last rounds of the EDC competition were less so, because you got 3 runs all day.
Oh, okay.
And then you had to qualify. So that's when I started backing off as well. But it was still fun because all your friends were there. You all worked together. That you've done, yourself. You've been there changing gearboxes at 3 a.m. with your friends, and everyone's getting stuck in, and someone comes back with like all the food they could find from the local takeouts and things like that.
I've always found
part of the stuff.
I've always found during those competitions that's what makes you the best driver too, right? Is driving at those events where you know that you are driving with the best drivers. So it's kind of it keeps your skills honed, and it makes you try your hardest.
Yeah, and I think that's why people get so good so quick these days as well, because they've got people to follow.
Yeah.
And when you're following someone who's better than you learn so much, and it brings everybody's level up.
Yeah.
Which is we didn't have that particularly, and I enjoyed that part of the journey, to be honest, learning things. But so good to see people these days have like a year in a car and can go and do pro drifting. It's crazy.
Right. Well,
they're like 12 years old.
Speaking of today, I wanted to get your perspective as someone who has been drifting in the UK since day one. How do you think drifting is today? Where do you think drifting will be in the future in UK?
It's a that is a heavy hitting question without the pre warning of the heavy hit.
I like to sneak them in there.
Yeah, it's right in there. It's. I think, sadly, it's potentially past its peak in terms of track accessibility. There's less and less tracks to go to now.
Yeah,
and it's back with that. If you want to drive on different tracks, you have to compete because that's the only time you're going to get to those tracks. So that's a little bit.
Is it because of the cost?
It makes it a little bit accessible.
The cost of track time. So if you're going to pay for it, you need to have sponsors and fans in attendance to cover all of that stuff. Is that what it is?
There's a lot of that to it as well because the costs going up. Noise is a massive problem in England. Tracks get shut down because of noise. I probably didn't help with my Corollas because they were the loudest things in the world.
Yeah.
Like the local councils complain about them. People will move in next to a racetrack that's been there for 50 years and then complain about the noise there. And yet there's an airport like a mile down the road.
Yeah.
So we've lost a lot of venues to that. We've lost some venues to like just people misbehaving basically as well.
Yeah.
Well, there's a decent competition scene. One of the big competitions finished last year, but there's still a lot of other options for people. And there are still 2 or 3 like genuinely amazing tracks that we can use, thankfully.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good dudes who are still driving. New guys coming up, which is good to see. And some of the old guys still doing it. And there's a lot of variety as well. There's a lot of variety of cars, a lot of variety of styles. You've got the guys who are trying to do the Kansai sort of style. A big group of those guys actually, and they're doing really well with it, and they're having a lot of success in competitions as well. Of course, there's the guys who ridicule it because it looks a bit funny.
Yeah.
But for me, when I tried it, I didn't have to beat any of the car with a hammer. None of the seams needed moving apart from the back seam on the arch. So I didn't fabricate any tubs. I didn't do anything other than fit the parts. And I'm far too lazy for that these days, so it's perfect for me.
Yeah.
And I understand it. If you're driving in Mayhan every week, you're going to crash 2 or 3 cars a year.
Yeah.
You don't want to be building a super drift car for that.
Right.
So those guys are doing that quite well, and the cars look cool to me because they're functional.
Yeah.
And then there's the guys who like the slammed look, and they're still very active and doing that really well as well. The stylish cars, there's still lots of stylish cars.
Yeah.
There's a group of these guys in MX-5s, all red.
Yeah.
Four dudes who just drive everywhere together, and they're really good. Like, I've followed them around a few tracks in my S15, and as I'm pulling like reasonably sized entries, he's just doing the same in an MX-5 on 13-inch wheels with no lock.
Yeah.
Like, yep, fair play. So it's still going and it's trundling along. I feel like it's like I say, it's a little bit in decline in terms of venues, but hopefully it'll carry on. Because there's still interest in it. There's still a lot of people who are keen to start doing it.
Yeah. I think the Japanese style of car culture is alive there. And hopefully, sometimes we just need a little decline for things to get big again.
Yeah.
I hope that's what we see. But when you were talking about those Miata guys, that reminded me of that time I saw you drifting with the Team Techno guys.
Yeah, that was a brilliant time.
That was amazing because the Team Techno guys are a bunch of AE86 guys, and they have the same kind of car style and driving style that you do. And to see you driving your hachiroku with theirs, so cool. So cool.
Yeah, really good times when they've come over and when I've gone to Ireland. Just like I say, very similar ethos, and we all want to go as fast as we can, and you can really follow those guys quite well. So good.
Yeah.
And super friendly. The Irish drifting scene is probably quite a lot better than the UK drifting scene. And every time I've gone over there, people are just super friendly.
Yeah.
And they remember me from like 15 years ago, which is always nice to have a little, oh yeah, I remember you. And
if you're from that area,
and stuff,
if you're from the area and you're into hachirokus, pause, even after 15 years.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
They do.
I think so.
Yeah, it's super cool. That
awesome.
Bit of it's really good, and those
cool.
guys are so friendly.
Yeah. Yeah. You have anything else?
No, we're good. We are ready to close this out.
Do you have anything else? Pause.
No, I mean, we've had a good chat. It's been fun. We've covered a bunch of stuff. Just like to say thank you to a few people, really.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Just the usual story. Obviously, first and foremost is Laura, Fancy Laura.
Fancy Laura.
She's always supported me, always believes in me, even when I like don't, because that's my thing.
Because you're humble.
We can see that.
Yeah, she's super understanding of how important it is and was to me when I do anything like that. And you won't be able to do it. You know, as you guys know, you need someone there.
Yeah,
and she's there. It's cool.
And
then just the guys who've
tables
helped me,
kind of changed on that, right? Now look at what she's doing. She's flying airplanes and becoming a scientist and all that stuff.
I don't agree with the airplane hobby, but she's very smitten with it.
Yeah.
Like, it's dangerous, right?
Yeah. I'm sure she was saying the same thing about you and your drifting.
I don't know. It's like if your engine turns off in a car, you just roll to a stop.
Yeah.
Whereas if your engine turns off in a plane, you've got more issues, you know?
Yeah. I'm sure she can handle it.
You smash your car into a concrete wall. I'm sure you're.
I can't say anything, can I? I've nearly rolled a few of them as well, but we don't talk about this.
Oh God, yeah. Crash on the Nürburgring, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe could
nearly rolled it with Laura in one night at a drift track, but it doesn't matter. We drove home. It was okay. And yeah, just the people who've helped me over the years and friends, like all the Night Spirit guys. We've had some great times.
Yeah.
And Driftworks helped me out when they can, which has been sweet. And Ian from Retro Speed Shop, who's helped me with so much building over the last 5 years. That I wouldn't have been able to do it without those guys for sure. Or if I did do it, it would be on much less of a level.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Cars would have been a lot uglier.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys have helped out a lot over the time. So
great. Yeah. Well, Paz, I really appreciate you being on here. I definitely think as we discuss pioneers of drifting in different parts of the world, I mean, mostly we've focused on the US, but with you being a pretty close friend of mine, to see you make that journey in the UK kind of on your own over there, you know, all the way across the ocean, kind of pioneering the UK scene over there along with your friends, and kind of experiencing in parallel what we were experiencing here when the Japanese drivers came over there and kind of showed you how to do things and kind of stepped up your game, and just watching it progress, and then also watching people from the UK coming, you know, leaving the UK to become pro drivers here, and just kind of seeing how all of that went down was amazing. And I am very proud of you for what you've done for drifting in the UK. And that's hard for me to say because I'm not from the UK, but you know, I see your influences in other people like Team Techno and the people that were around you in different types of cars. And you know, I'm thankful for you for what you've done for drifting culture worldwide and being a shining light for the rest of us in terms of like how you drive a hachiroku, how you make a hachiroku look good. And I always say when I see a really good hachiroku driver driving, that's one of the few times where I feel like I can see an aura. There's an aura about you when you're driving that car. And it's so aggressive and it's so fast. And it feels like watching you drive beyond the limits of a car. And it's so cool to watch. And to be able to call you my friend, I think is great. So
yeah, this is amazing. And I appreciate the kind words. And it's something we always strive for. I personally always strive for, to try and drive as hard as possible. There's so much to learn.
Yeah.
Like a standard AE86 engine has got more left in the tank than I can get out of it, and that's what we used to strive for, to get the most out of everything.
Yeah.
And that's still true today. If I do get back into a drift car, nothing will change. I want to go try and be as good as possible.
Yeah.
But that's, again, thanks to you guys as well, because you were a conduit for me, and I could ask you questions and I could see how you guys did things. It wouldn't be the same if I didn't have you guys as friends to bounce things off of and learn from, because again, we were a step behind you guys.
Yeah.
So having you as a friend really helped me to get cooler wheels, because you sent me wheels, and B, just learn from you guys, you know. Like,
yeah.
And you could speak to Taka and Hiro and ask them questions on my behalf and stuff like that. So because those guys were legit as well. Just
they were legit. Yeah.
Shout out those guys. Their cars were, even with USDM bumpers, those cars look good.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah. You know, And you didn't even mention your barrels.
Oh, dude, the legendary barrels.
Your wheels called the barrels. You wanted those so bad for so long. But yeah, I was always happy to give you that nudge and to give you that. I always thought that you were one of the few hachiroku guys out there, and I know that must have been hard. And so to like always push you and reassure you that what you were doing was great and to keep going, like that was. I was so happy to do that for you. So,
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It means a lot.
Yeah. All right. So,
thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. I can't wait to see you behind the wheel of a drift car again.
Yeah, I'm getting itchy again. It's only been like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Oh, looking for cars to buy again.
It'll happen.
I'll never learn.
Yeah, it'll happen. It's only a matter of time. So
yeah, something will happen.
All right. Thanks,
Great
Paz.
stuff, man. Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
you, man.
You too, guys.
Thanks, Paz.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Salady Mania Podcast Season 2, brought to you by Falcon Tires, produced by Benson Sue and Nadine Sue, audio and video engineering by Mark Mondoy, graphic design and motion graphics by Steve Nakamura. Got a question or comment for us? Call or text us on our hotline at 323-607-6075, and maybe you can be featured on a future episode. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you download your podcasts.